Hello everyone and welcome to Crocodile MTG, the YouTube channel focused on learning and growing as a Magic the Gathering player. My name is Jordan and today we are going to be interviewing the Tannon Grace. Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jordan and welcome to Crocodile MTG. Today I am joined by an amazing guest. He's a podcaster, a former MTG grinder, and he has done a ton of work for the Magic the Gathering community. It's the Tannon Grace. Tannon, welcome man. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Super excited. Let's get going.
So our goal for today is to learn about the Tannon Grace, his personality, his Magic accomplishments, and his hobbies outside the game. One thing I have spoken about and I find most unique in the Magic the Gathering community is the fact that everyone has a Magic the Gathering origin story about how they actually got started playing the game. So Tannon, why don't you go ahead and tell us, how did you first get introduced to Magic the Gathering and what got you playing?
Well, I think this is going to really show my age here, but I think my first games were either 1994 or 1995, so about 10 years old, and it was at grade school. I had some older friends that were like one grade ahead of me, so I was looking like, I think, fourth grade, they were in fifth. There's a guy named Luke, and one day he brought some Magic cards to recess, and him and his buddy were playing, and I started watching, and I'm like your typical like nerd, geek, whatever you want to call it. When I was a kid, I was really into Star Wars and comic books and all that stuff. So this, the art immediately grabbed me. And so I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Like, what's going on? Like, why are these cards sideways? Why aren't these sideways? Like, what's going on? So they kind of explained everything to me. I got the bug, went and begged my mom for like a week straight. And, she bought me like a little starter deck from back in the day. And, I accrued some cards and stuff from then. And, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Crazy things for people who didn't know about it back then when the game was started. We didn't have like sleeves and deck boxes like you have nowadays, so we would have to bring our cards. I remember I would get a sandwich bag, right? I would take my cards and I wrap them in a rubber band. I put it in the sandwich bag and I put it in like my backpack or my pocket, and like my little school uniform. I went to private school, so I had to like wear a uniform and all that stuff. And funny thing, it's funny that I mentioned private school. I remember probably my best deck when I was a kid, and the one that was probably the most expensive too. I never got that one back because one of my teachers found it, and it had like Unholy Strength, which had the pentagram on it, the original art on it. It had like Hypnotic Spectre, Hell's Caretaker, Demonic Horde, all these cards that are like very like satanic in their names and their appearance. And they were just like, what are these? They're freaking out and stuff, because, my school was a Catholic grade school,
Yep.
And stuff. So, we went to church every week with our school and stuff. So I remember not getting those cards back. They were pretty strict about not being able to use this. They're like, hey, don't bring this stuff, but we know you play recess anyway. Let's be real and stuff. So, that was my first foray into Magic. A lot of fun. I kind of miss those days. It was a lot simpler.
So from there, how did you get into competitive Magic? Was it just from the start you just kept playing, or how did that go?
Actually, there was a pretty big gap, right? So, I played in the mid-90s for, a little bit. I dabbled in Magic as a kid. And then I didn't play for quite a while. And then about, I missed like Magic's real big turn. Like when it started getting big and better. When I first started playing, I remember being excited for Homelands and Ice Age to come out. Those sets were awful, by the way. You should not have been excited for these. I remember buying packs of the Dark and stuff, and being like, where are the good cards? Like I need to open them up. But so I didn't play through the time when like the Pro Tour started getting really big and popular. I do remember seeing it on ESPN, when they broadcast it back in the day and stuff. But it was either like my senior year of high school, I think that's right, or my freshman year of college. I started getting back into it. And I remember I was at a friend's house. We were like just hanging out in his room listening to music and stuff. And, like burning CDs. I don't know if you remember that when you were really young, and stuff like, what was it, Napster and all that stuff. So, God, I'm so old. But my friend, I saw like this binder of cards, and it looked like a sports binder, right? And I'm a big sports fan. Like love baseball, love football and stuff. So I'm like, oh, cool. Like, hopefully they're baseball cards. And like I open it up and just Magic cards. And I was like, dude, I used to play this. It was like the Spider-Man meme moment, like we pointed at each other like, oh, you. Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, oh, cool. And so like, we started playing, like some decks built. And I was just like, man, these cards are really good. Like all the newer cards. Because back then, I remember we were excited for Scaled Worm and Crawl Worm and all that stuff. That's what I wanted to be doing. And like nowadays, like Like, can you imagine the first time I read Spirit Monger when I came back to the game? Like, I don't even know if you know what that card does.
Not off the top of my head, but I feel like I've
at
least seen it.
Real quick, it was like 3 green black for a 6/6 that could like regenerate, change colors, and I think it got bigger whenever it killed a creature or whatever and stuff. And I'm just like, where's the drawback? Like anything this good back in the day would like, just a 6/6 for 5 wasn't even a thing.
That was your mythic rare. That was your chase rare.
Yeah, we even have mythic rares back then. That'd be chase rare. Like Shivan Dragon was the nuts. Like Sarah Angel was unbeatable when I was a kid. that kind of stuff. So I remember going to like the local store and buying packs. And I remember the first pack I opened Mirari. It was like in the newest set, and I had to have someone explain to me how the card worked because it references the stack, and I wasn't even there when that rule got put up. So like there was no more damage prevention step. There was no more interrupts. Like you use the stack now, and I was like, someone had to physically show me how it worked. To be like, you play this card and I play this one, but since mine's on top, it resolves first. And stuff like that. So from there, I kind of fell in with those guys, right? I was like, hey, like how do these stuff work? And we would like hang out at each other's houses. It was like more high school, college guys. Mm-hmm. And so when I rolled into college, we'd start playing. And we'd go over to my buddy's house. And it'd always be between like 4 and 8 of us, because we could get an 8-man going if we needed to. But my buddy had like 2 or 3 desktops at his house, and someone would bring over a laptop. And Magic Online was a thing back then, right? It was like getting started. It was pretty new. Mm-hmm. And we would play. And I know this is going to be hard to believe, but I wouldn't talk very much because I would just ask questions. I'd be like, hey, why'd you do that there? Or why'd you make that play there? Why cast this instead of this? And they would explain it to me. And I would like try to internalize it and understand, right? I'm not just like, hey, like play for me. Like a lot of people when they want coaching, they just want someone to play for them, but they don't understand why they're doing, the right thing. And so I just like learned a lot. And I didn't have a frame of reference to like see how good I was or anything because, everyone around me was very good. I got real lucky. Like I said, I was playing with a bunch of the best players in my state. I lived in, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I probably had 7 of the best 8 players in the state. Tom Ross lived up in Ruston, far away from us. And he hadn't broken out yet. I remember the first time I watched him play, I knew. I was like, this guy's different. Like there's something here. You could see it in the way that he approached the game. It was just different, but he kept winning. And you're like, why? What's going on? But anyway, so from there, I kind of got the bug, started playing competitively there and just, being around them. I surrounded myself with people that were like-minded in the game. They wanted to be better. Like I wanted to be better. And it kind of pushes you. I think it's one of the best ways to get better is surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you.
100% agree.
Yep. I never was like, I remember the first time I won our 8-man, like our 8-man and being so excited. I remember it was Mirrodin, and we like would redraft the rares from from all the packs, and I was super excited because there was a Chrome Mox. At the time, that was like a super chase rare, and I was like, yeah, I got a Chrome Mox. I was like super excited. So it was like $20, which back then was like absurd price for a Magic card. So
wish they were all like that nowadays.
Yeah, I know, right? Can you imagine telling me when I was a kid that like some of these cards could be worth like thousands of dollars, or like your mythic chaser like Uro, you just like $67, $70 a pop? Like that, no. Like dual lands back then were like 20 spots, So
you said you were playing with your friends and you started playing competitively. Did it just start off like you just started grinding F&Ms with them? You were just playing against them, or was it kind of like a slow build up into PTQs, GPs, SCG events, or was it just always like you knew? You talked about ESPN. Was ESPN, did they show the Pro Tour, or was it GPs also? What did ESPN show, and what kind of gave you the bug and start chasing the higher up competitive scene?
Yeah, so ESPN, it showed the Pro Tour. It was kind of like the initial coverage that Magic got. If you ever watched it on like Twitch or Magic's website or whatever it was that originally came on, like Justin TV and all that stuff, they would just show Sunday of the Pro Tour.
Okay.
I still remember when they were like, oh, we're going to start showing the whole Pro Tour. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like now, before they ever covered a GP and stuff like that. But you would see these people who were like larger than life, because back then they had some real personalities. It was like, the way I think about it now, and it's probably, I'm looking at it with like ruby colored glasses, like, you see it was kind of like wrestlers, right? They had this bigger than life personality, like they would come out there, I forgot the guy's name, but he always wore like a bandana across his head. And one of them always smack talked a lot, and stuff. And you hear about stories about Dave Long and stuff back then. But, like I wanted to do that, right? I've always been very competitive, and you can, if you ever hear my wife talk about it and my friends, I don't really have hobbies for fun. Like I do play stuff for fun, but like I take it way too seriously. Like I try to get good, you know, like I ingest everything I can about the game and try to be better about it. And that definitely happened with Magic. You know, I caught the bug. I kind of went, like, you know, there's definitely the building blocks. When you think about, you're like, hey, get good at F&M, then like start playing PTQs, then you can like, you know, GP, stuff like blah, blah, blah. I just kind of did my own thing. So, you know, it's with that group of guys. And one day they were like, hey, we're driving over to Houston. It's about a 4-hour drive. They're like, we're driving over to Houston next weekend for a PTQ. You know, it's sealed, you know, which at the time we were playing mostly limited. You know, we didn't play a ton of constructed. But limited was really big and popular back then. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, I love that. It'll be fun, you know, hang out, you know, car rides are great with the guys, you know, and stuff. So, and I still remember being like, so what's a PTQ? Like, you know, I didn't even know, you know, and so they explained it to me. I was like, oh, I can play on the Pro Tour if I win this. Cool. And, you know, in my mind, I didn't really think about it. You know, I was like, oh, they're all better than me. I'm not going to get there. Well, fast forward to the PTQ, I EXO the Swiss, you know, obviously, or whatever, you know, like easy peasy. None of my friends make top 8. I remember because every one of them stood behind me and they had like a pen and paper and were like writing down what they would do during the draft, because you would draft in the top 8 after sealed, right? Easily just win the whole PTQ because obviously I did, you know, like it's just the way this, you know, the story has to go. So I'm like, yeah, these are easy, right? You know, but like there was also that, like, you know, back then there's some swagger in Magic too. And like going into the top 8, I didn't recognize anybody in that top 8. And like, you know, one of my friends were there, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to win. Like, I knew I was going to win. I'm just going to win. I've got to be better than these guys. Right. And so I win. So I qualified for my first Pro Tour, my first try. And like, I didn't even realize I didn't have a grasp on how hard it is. You know, I never had to like scrape and claw through a bunch of PTQs and stuff. So I don't know if that like hindered me at all or what, but I mean, it made it easier, to tell you the truth. You know, I played in my first GP, like I think later that year, before I even played in my first Pro Tour. Did like okay at my first GP. They were different back then. They would only take the top 64 into day 2, like after the cut. And I had 0 buys. So I remember I went 7-2 with a really busted deck, but I lost in round like 2 or 3. So my tiebreakers were a little bad, and I finished like 66th or something like that, or 65th. And just missed day 2. So, you know, played some side events, did some practice for the Pro Tour. Went to the Pro Tour. It was fun. I did all right. Didn't do super great. You know, did okay my first GP, but, you know, went from there. You know, and then I was pretty sporadic with Magic. You know, I would take some time off here or there. I would always follow coverage and stuff, but I would get like big into poker or big into school or, you know, into a girl that I was dating. You know what I mean? Things, you know, would take precedent over Magic, but no one ever really quit. So I kind of like move in and out of competitive Magic. Like I missed the whole Jace the Mind Sculptor when it first came out, and Jund and all that stuff. Like I didn't even get to play then. I played Callblade like that's when I first came back, like a big comeback into the game or whatever, and started playing PTQs and stuff. That was, you know, coverage started getting bigger then. You know, you started seeing, was it like GG's Live started covering Grand Prix and Opens and stuff like that. And so that got me more interested. I was like, that's cool. I want to be a part of that. And like, I would watch these people play and I'm like, man, I was better than these guys. You know, like I could compete with, or I was just as good. I could compete with these guys. So, you know, started playing PTQs and GPs again. Did okay in a few of them. I remember one of the first GPs I came back, just, it sounds like the story is going to be a broken record, but I was like, pretty into poker, was like not really playing Magic. My buddies were like, hey, we're going to GP in Daytona this weekend. It's like a 9 or 10 hour drive from us. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, what's the format? And they're like, it's triple Lorwyn sealed. You know, so it's Lorwyn sealed. And I was like, cool. I watched them play the format a few times online, just so I knew how Planeswalker worked, because they were brand new cards. I hadn't even played with one yet. I ended up top 8ing that Grand Prix. I felt like I was a game from winning the entire thing. I lost to Seth Manfield. You know, everyone knows who Seth Manfield is now. No one knew who he was. He was a little kid during that. He was like, I don't know, 15 maybe, 16. He was younger than me, and he beat the crap out of me. And then he won the tournament. Beat me in, I think, the top 4, and then he won the finals. But our match was definitely the finals. Like Paulo Victor Domodoroso was into the finals already, because he was still like relatively unknown at the time. Like his top 8 was stacked, by the way, and not because of me. I mean, there was a bunch of other really good players in these, and I had passed him his whole deck, and then like playing Seth during our round. Like I think I told him after he beat me, I was like, "Hey, you're gonna win the tournament. Good luck." And he was like, gave me this weird look. I was like, "Your deck's way better than Paulo's. Like you're gonna win," and he won. So it was like his big springboard. So that qualified me for, you know, the next Pro Tour. But this is how different stuff was back then. Here's another great story. The first player that I beat in the top 8 of that Grand Prix made more money than I did, because they were an amateur going in. because, I had already played on a pro tour. They had not. So they got amateur prize. They got like an extra, bonus on top of stuff. The amount of money that I won from the event, because back then you didn't get plane tickets, was not enough to cover the plane ticket to where I had qualified for, because it was Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Oh. So I was like, yeah, I won like, I don't know, like $1,500 or something like that, $1,400.
How old were you at the time?
21, 20, pretty young. Comparatively. I mean, this was this is an age ago, because I'm 35, 36 now, and so I couldn't tell you a thing about the next set. Just didn't play. Didn't go to the pro tour. Didn't play. Whatever. Weaved in and out. Definitely, got back into like SCGs and stuff after that. So that's when people started seeing the more modern me.
So in there, you talked about you did some poker and things like that. Mm-hmm. Was your poker career just kind of a side thing you started doing in between Magic? Like, when did you get into that? How'd that kind of go? Is that something you want to talk about, or?
Oh no, definitely. So the group of guys I fell into that got me good at Magic, and that I went to Texas with, I still remember this very clearly. We would get together every Tuesday night at the LGS and do an 8-man, like a physical 8-man, right? And we would buy packs from the LGS to kind of help support it. And I remember one time, this guy named Adam walks in, and he's got a bag in his hand, just full of change, just a huge plastic bag at a grocery store, it's full of change, and he had a deck of cards, and he's like, "Guys, we're gonna play a different game today." And I was like, "Okay, what are we playing?" And he's like, "It's called Texas Hold'em," right? He's like, and back then, none of us had ever heard of it. This is before it got big on the internet, before it got big on TV and stuff. And he's like, "I've been playing this online, and I've been making a lot of money." And so I just got hooked, like bad, like right away. He showed us how to play. Back then, the most popular game was Limit. We were playing Limit Hold'em, not No Limit. And I went home. The next morning, I got up, bought every book at Barnes & Noble. There's only like 4 at the time. Now there's like 1 million, but there's only like 4, because there wasn't a lot of stuff on the internet either then.
Right.
So I just bought every book I could get. I was like highlighting sections, taking notes, and that put me through college. I treated it like a job. I played way too much. I got pretty good at it for a while, but it was just like Magic. Like I would go in and out of it, and that group of guys, we all got into it. Right, we all got into poker, so there'd be days where I'd come over there, we'd all be playing Magic online and like talking through our plays, or we'd all be playing poker, and like all the different things. Because back then, online poker was like legal. You could just swipe your credit card and you're good to go. Party poker, it was like an ATM. Let's go, let's play. So I did a lot of that. It was a lot of fun. Off and on through the rest of my life, did the same thing. Right, like it was my job through college up until like a few years ago. I even lived in Las Vegas for like 3 to 5 years. There was like a year there where I left and went to Dallas because I had a job in esports that I was doing. And then I started getting serious with my then girlfriend, who's now my wife. And so I had already kind of like started to transition out of it, but I don't really play that much anymore. Magic's my only like vice when it comes to that stuff now.
With years of grinding, like, and you said you moved around a lot. You went to Las Vegas and lived there for a little while. Do you have a favorite place that you've traveled?
Oh yeah, for sure. Las Vegas is definitely one of my favorites, even though I lived there, mostly because of the food. I'm a big foodie. I'll eat anything pretty much once. The food was amazing. Certain destinations stand out more than others, but it's mostly because of the times that you had there. Like, what's the joke? We're not here for the magic, we're here for the gathering.
Right. Yeah.
And it's so much more poignant right now with what's going on in the climate that's going on in the everyone's locked down. By the way, if you're leaving your house right now, please don't. Just stay home. Like, help flatten the curve. Like, just do the right thing. But it's so messed up that I have to say that. But like certain things stand out. Like, I hated New Jersey every time I had to go there for an event, but I had more fun at those events than some of the other ones. We would go out and probably drink too much because, we're kids with like a lot of disposable cash and we're playing a card game, lots of fun and stuff there. I remember I spent a summer with a lot of the Swedish players once, like Joel Larson and, like a lot of like his whole crew. They came and like stayed with us in Vegas, and we kind of went all over the United States playing and stuff. And we just kind of got to hang out with them and got to know them a lot. And that was a ton of fun. So lots of crazy, cool stuff going on then. So, I don't know if I have like an exact favorite destination, but like the food and the people stand out for sure.
Wait, was traveling hard, or did you just always have a knack for traveling and just enjoy it?
I enjoy it when I was there. The actual traveling part of it is horrible. It's one of the main reasons I don't do it anymore. I mean, it was easier in certain areas, but when I've lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana most of my life, and traveling from here, it's a little bit more expensive than for most people, and I don't get direct flights to almost anywhere, flying out of New Orleans. It's one of the main reasons I don't do the SCG thing anymore. For about a year and a half, I went to almost every open, and then I just kind of like stopped. And people were like, why? And it's like, look, when I did my tax return that year, I had one of the best seasons anybody had on the tour, arguably the best season anyone had the year that I went hard. And I was like, I just didn't make a lot, like after you looked at because everything's more expensive for me. I even had the best sponsor on the SCG tour. I was on Team BCW at the time, and we were, definitely hooked up more than any of the other teams as far as I know. We had like one of the best deals. They were amazing to me. I owed that company so much, for helping my career out. And it was just, financially, I was like, man, I'm not like, even if I was like, someone like, the joke about me never winning an event and always getting second places, even if I win those events, it still doesn't move the needle enough. And it was more about the competition for me at the time than the money. Okay. But after a while, dude, I just wanted to be home with my wife and my dog, and like hang out and stuff. My wife's been really busy, like super busy over the last few years. So that made it easier. Okay. You miss the other person less when you're constantly busy.
Yeah, when you're
she's
both
not just
busy,
sitting.
It's not as bad.
Yeah, she's not just sitting here twiddling her thumbs or like having to hang out with her friends. She's like actively, she has a full-time job and she's about to finish her PhD, so she works 80 hours a week, kind of stuff.
Yeah. So you talked about your sponsor BCW. I know you've done a lot of work with them. Did you want to talk about some of the work you did with them? Yeah,
absolutely. One of the things I'm most proud of when it comes to my career is not any of my personal finishes, which we can go over that at some point in time if you want, but is what I've given back to the community, because that's more important to me now, right? Like leaving a legacy. Like no one remembers, that I top 8 at that Grand Prix, 15 years ago or whatever, however long it was, a million years ago, right? Like when people hear about, they're like, you have a Grand Prix top 8? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, like when was it? I'm like, I was a different person,
Right.
But like just doing the cool stuff, like so before every open, we would fly in the day before on like Friday, and we would go to one of the LGSs there, and we'd let them know, obviously, like they would get to announce it, and we would do these we call them BCW challenges, where we would come in and we had, I don't know, like 60 boxes of sleeves. We had like drawstring bags, shades, shirts, like all kinds of stuff, like a bunch of swag to give away, right?
Right.
It would be like me, Jim Davis, Ross Marion, Brenna DeCandio, like some of these big name players, and then me. And then, we would be sitting there and we'd play games with people, right? And we'd have like standard, modern, legacy decks, sometimes another format too, and be like, hey, you pick the format, we get to play. And they would get something for playing no matter what. They would get a pack of sleeves, like a free pack of sleeves, right? By the way, if you have not tried the BCW sleeves, they are the best sleeve on the market. I do not get paid for that anymore. I'm not a shill, I am. But they are actually the best sleeve that I've ever played with. We got to give those out, plus other cool stuff. And just seeing like how much it meant to people to be able to play against like, like, dude, Ross, I read your articles every week. Or Jim, I watch your stream every day. I watch your YouTube. And they get to meet them, right?
Yeah.
And you'd sign cards and do cool stuff like that. We I remember I got to help with a lot of like charity drives and stuff like this. A good example, local player, not going to name any names, but a local player recently, he had a baby boy. And there was a complication, and the boy needed multiple surgeries. He's fine, by the way. Thank God, he's fine.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. But all of us got together, and I called a couple of my friends all around the country. And one of my friends actually works at R&D, and they sent some stuff down to us. And we were going to do a tournament. COVID kind of got in the way, but we still raised, I don't know, I think somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 for this family. Just That's like awesome. All of us donating money, and like we auctioned off some of our personal stuff. Like I've got a good collection. I'm kind of a hoarder now. I don't get rid of stuff. So I was just like, look, I don't need this stuff. I remember one day I brought in like the 120 playmats that I have. I was like, anybody want any of these? If you want one, pay him. Like just stuff like that. And so anytime you're able to give back, it's a really cool. I've done a lot of like free coaching and stuff in my time, and been paid for it too, obviously, but just, I want to leave the game in a better spot than when I found it.
Right.
I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah. With years of grinding, what accomplishments have you achieved? I know you played on the SCG tour. You said already about your pro GP top 8 and a lot of your PTQ events and things like that. What accomplishments are you most proud of over the years?
All right, I think I have a decent bit of this memorized just because, I love numbers. Most Magic players memorize all this stuff. So say I've played in a bunch of pro tours. I remember the exact numbers. I only ever did really well in like one of them. So there was there was a team one way back in the day, like mid 2000s, where I went undefeated day one, but I didn't get to play day two because of the team event, you know, like your record.
Okay.
You know, it was just it was a funny thing, right? My deck was absurd or whatever. Anyway, but at the last Team Pro Tour, PT25, I had an amazing experience with Brendan DeCandio and Amaz. Do you know who Amaz is, like from Hearthstone and stuff?
I've heard the name.
Magic?
I've seen. Yeah, I've heard his stories.
Yeah. So he got a special invite to that Pro Tour, and then they were like, well, if you're going to play, it's a team event, so you need teammates. And so neither Brendan nor I were qualified for this event, but he was like, hey, do you guys want to play with me? And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty fortunate because they like tripled the prize pool at this event. So we I think we ended up at like 30th or something, and it was my highest finish ever at a Pro Tour and one of the highest paydays ever because, you know, it's the best one. So pretty lucky to not be queued for an event and then, you know, do that well. But so it was kind of crazy. We played 7 rounds each day. There was no cut because there was no actual number that's correct to cut from with that many teams and stuff. So I remember we went 3-4 on day one, which doesn't sound great, but we went 6-1 on day two and got like pretty close to 7-0ing because like our decks were great. Like we did a lot of testing for it. I was pretty proud of myself for not just like immediately locking in Delver to play in Legacy. I actually didn't play it. It's one of the only events that I haven't played Delver in, and my deck was a really good choice for the weekend. I really liked all the work that I put in. It was just a great experience overall. So like that's like some of my Pro Tour experience. Grand Prix, you know, scattered day twos and stuff here. Got that one top 8. SCGs is where I really did a lot of my damage and what I'm known for. I had like one really good, like solid year or whatever in the SCG tour, you know, because I haven't played a ton. Like if you go look at the actual leaderboard, my numbers are weird, you know, like haven't played as much as everybody else, but I did really well for about a year and a half. I have 12 top 8s in SCG Opens. No wins, famously. Everybody always likes to remind me of that. You know, I have a lot of second places.
Second place Tannon.
Yeah, so the joke kind of happened this way. So everyone knows about like, it's like hashtag team get Tannon a trophy because the good teams that I played on were always with people who had multiple trophies and I have none, right? And so the name came from, we actually had a Facebook group where we would like, you know, all chat with each other about like, hey, like when are you getting in? What deck are you playing? Blah, 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 right? But the chat name got changed to Team Get Tannon a Trophy. And one of the days during the event, like me or somebody was checking our phone and Ryan Overturf like looked at the phone and saw that. And he's like, I'm using that on coverage. And I was like, sure. And it just like, you know, caught on. We ended up losing in the finals of that tournament. And then it felt like every other tournament after that. It was so closely put together. You know, like I had so many finals losses in like a small period of time that like you get kind of remembered for that. You know, I remember almost every one of them very well individually about like what happened or what deck I was playing or, you know, because anytime you come that close to winning an event, there's the one lucky part and the one unlucky part, right? At least like winning a tournament, you're going to have to get lucky somewhere. Like, you know, you're playing, you know, upwards of almost 20 rounds of Magic. It's going to happen, you know, like that kind of thing. And I don't know, you think I would blindly find my way through an 8-man at some point, you know, because that's all it is. You just got to win an 8-man, you know, but there's just something different. Yeah, there's something different about it. You know, how many times I've 3-0'd a draft or something, like you'd think someone would just get mana screwed enough through the entire top 8 that I would just get there, right? But it just never worked out. It's fine. That's like, if I had to have like a regret, you know, or a thing that you didn't accomplish that you wanted to, it'd be like that I never got to like hoist a trophy, you know, because that's the joke is like, you know, I won countless PTQs and did well at other like local events. We used to have like a local invitational here that was like pretty hard, you know, to win. You had like Tom Ross and like Brian Basoko and a bunch of other players here. There'd be like, you know, 5 to 10 Grand Prix top 8s, like 5 to 10 SEG winners like playing in the event. And like I won one of those once and was like pretty proud of it because we played, I think, 3 or 4 different formats over multiple days. But like, it's not the same as winning like an open or a GP and like, you know, hoisting that trophy and like getting your, you know, picture on coverage and stuff. So it became its own monster after a while of, you know, of not winning. But, you know, it doesn't bother me. I didn't lose sleep over it. Like it never affected me in a negative way. You know, my friends, don't get me wrong. I get jokes about it all the time, even to this day. Right. Yeah. Like, even to this day, and it's never bothered me once, unless I know the person's being malicious. Then like it's a little different. Right. Yeah, but you know, my buddies make fun of me. Not too bad. Yeah. Because like there's a lot of things you could be known for that are worse than you always finish second out of like these, you know, 1,400 person tournaments. I'm like, yeah, like it's not a bad life. Like,
you can just go back at them and be like, at least I'm consistent. Exactly. Second place as long as I'm always there. So do you have a favorite like tournament finish? Like I know like you're saying like you're getting into these finals, you might be hitting second place a lot, but like do you have a favorite tournament that you just remember was super close, you were almost there, and just just one of your absolute favorite moments?
Sure. There's one that sticks out in my mind, and I don't know if I want to say it this way. This is kind of an exclusive for you because we don't really talk about this in public much. Okay. It was one of my finals losses. It was when I was playing with Brandon DeCandio and Ross Merriam at the time. And they're probably my favorite team that I've ever played with. Nothing against anyone else, but, like, I played with them a lot. There's something to be said. It's kind of like if you've ever on a sports team, that camaraderie that you develop with your teammates. Like, you went to war with these guys. Absolutely. Like, there's like I would bleed for them, kind of thing. And there was one in particular that stands out. And so we lost the finals. It all happened really fast. I think Brennan lost his match. I was winning mine. Like, I was in game 3, winning my match. And I look over and Ross is like decidedly far ahead with elves versus humans, which is a good matchup, right? I think it's in game 3. And I hear Ross start talking to himself, and then he starts talking to me, and Ross messed up. He missed a permutation with like one of his elves or whatever. Didn't realize he could untap a druid more than once. Okay. He had like 19 permanents in play with like counters everywhere. I would have not come close to getting it right, but Ross prides himself and like knows that he should get that right. And this is not me ever hating on Ross, because like I've definitely punted multiple times in big events, but that one sticks out because we had it won. I won my round, and he would have won, and then he gave his opponent an opening, and his opponent won the next turn. Like, drew Reflector Mage to kill him or whatever. Like the exact card. Yeah. Like whatever. You know what I mean? Like that thing. And the reaction that Ross had afterwards will always stick in my mind. I have never seen someone like so upset with himself about something. And, Brennan and I had to like assure him a bunch of times, hey, dude, it's fine. Like, you know what I mean? And like, I legitimately meant it. I'm like, it's fine. Like, yeah. And, we had a talk. I was like, we'll get there again. We'll have another opportunity. We did. We made another finals like very soon after that. I was like, it doesn't bother me at all. And like, I think he didn't mind losing in the finals, right? Like him personally, it's fine. But like, he felt like he let me down, and he felt like he let Brennan down. But I definitely know that in his mind, he felt like he let me down more than anything. Right. And talking to him afterwards, and like our friendship became even stronger after that. And like, Ross and I do our podcast and stuff together. He's one of my best friends in Magic. We hang out outside of the game. We talk about stuff other than Magic. Same thing with Brennan. Brennan and I, even though he doesn't play Magic a lot right now, neither do I. He's a new dad, and I've got a bunch of stuff. The other day we were on a call together for like 4 or 5 hours, and I don't think we even spoke about Magic the entire time. Right. Talked about like mortgages and stuff, adult stuff. Right. And I don't know, I just miss those guys. I miss that. I miss that competition, I miss that camaraderie, and like just playing with them sticks out. Like that's probably the highlight of my career, is not just Team BCW, like all of the guys on it, but like we were called Team BCW because we were the full Team BCW team on a trios. And I just miss that, right? Yeah. And like, there's a bunch of stuff you miss on it, like the camaraderie or whatever, like the tiny bit of swagger. Because I'm not gonna lie, there's a different mentality when all three of us were going into a tournament. Like there's no way we were gonna lose. Like we just didn't. There was like a solid year where like we just did not lose. Right. Like I remember like we missed like one day 2 or something like that. But like I think at one point we were like 5 or 6 in top 8s or something like that. We just did not miss. Like so I kind of miss that. And like I miss the competition. And I'm getting older, and I don't know how much. I mean, I was going to probably play in a couple opens this year, but no one's playing in opens anymore.
I don't think anyone's going to play the entire year.
I said that I said that a while ago. I was like, I don't think they're having an event this year, just for multiple reasons, or whatever. Which stay home, people, stay home. Like, stop pushing for this stuff. But I think that stands out. That's a really long answer to a very simple question, but I think that stands out the most.
I think we got a couple things from that. Like, I think one, even the best Magic players make mistakes, and it's important to recognize that. We kind of talked about and went into like how like when you're playing on a team, how important like it is, and how that feeling is where you're trying not to let down your teammates. Like you're playing for people, and that's just such a big difference. Would you say like if you're going into a tournament, would you prefer team tournaments, or like do you like the single tournaments as well? There's just such a different atmosphere about team tournaments, it seems.
Team tournaments are my absolute favorite. Always have. I like team sports. I like that camaraderie. So 100% agree with you. They're different. They're different animals. I've done pretty dang well as an individual Magic player in my career. It's the most way you play the game, right?
Yeah.
You play as an individual more than anything else. I will go out of my way to play team events and to play with especially certain people. Like, I went to tour stops I would have never gone to except for they're like. Remember, there was one up in like New York or something once, or one of the events somewhere that I was like, man, I have to take like 3 planes to get here and like a drive or whatever. But yeah, there's something different about it. Like, I definitely feel like I played tighter overall as a team player than an individual player. You scrape and claw for like everything, right? You don't give up. I guess this is another good moment. I have a best of SCG moment from a team event where I didn't give up in a certain situation where no one's ever going to fault you for scooping. I had like mulligan to 5 with Delver in Legacy, and I'm playing against somebody. This is on camera, so you can see this match. It's great.
I watched this just before this interview.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Right,
Yep.
And so my opponent sneak attacks an Emrakul into me on like turn 2 or 3 or something like that. So I have no permanents. I'm at like 2, and I have 2 cards left in my hand or whatever, right? And so I have a big follow-up. I get to like fetch land, delve my whole graveyard away and play a Gurmag Angler, and then they force a will it. And I'm just like, come on, man. Like, it's, but I kept playing when, and I won the game like 13 turns later or something. The video, they have to skip a lot because it takes a while.
Yep.
And, he like fetched the wrong land at one point. And I got to really punish him for that. It's really funny when I realize that I've won the game, I actually forget to draw for my draw step that turn because I do like an upkeep effect. I like thought scour myself on my upkeep because I'm like brainstorm locked and like I draw Stifle, which kills him, like it guarantees me to win, or draw Bolt or something. And so I was still playing Stifle, unfortunately. But that one stands out too. That game was absurd. He got me back though. He crushed me in the top 8 of that event.
Oh, did he? Okay. Was that during the actual tournament? And then
so that was during the Swiss, and then the top 8. The top 8's a crazy story too. This tournament sticks out for so many reasons. We also had Kevin Jones on that team. I was playing with Kevin Jones and Harlan Fear, and Kevin Jones is a character. God, I love that man. But in that top 8, the crazy thing happened. So you're talking about teams and how they're different. My opponent casts Brainstorm. He's like, hey, I'll brainstorm. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So he picks up the 3 cards and he like shows his buddy playing Modern. And he's like, hey, like, what do you think? And his buddy's like, yeah, like this and this. So I lean over to Harlan. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's our matchup? What's doing this? And he goes, it's this. And I'm like, all right, so you're going to do this, this, this over the next 2 turns? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, all right, so we're good. Like, I just know we're going to win that or whatever, right? And so I'm looking at Harlan over to my left and I'm talking to him. And I hear the man who I'm playing against say shuffle. And I go, what? And I turn back and he's shuffling the cards back into his deck, the 3 cards from the brainstorm. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm shuffling. And I just point to the brainstorm that's on the table and he goes, oh my God. And he looks at his teammate and he goes, I just lost us the match or whatever. And I go, look, I don't think this is a game loss because they've changed those rules. But I remember we had to get multiple head judges. They had to get our head judge, another tournament's head judge, because there's no fix for this.
Yeah.
So you have to do the best you possibly can because the card needs to try to do as much as it can, right? So what the fix is I get to pick his deck up, look through his deck, hand him 3 more cards, and he has to resolve the brainstorm, right? But I asked the judge, I'm like, yeah, because like the thing is, they're not just going to make him put 3 cards back and then put 2 cards back on his library, right? Like that's not okay. Yeah. And to this day, every time I see that judge, I'm like, hey, have y'all figured out a better fix? So
did you get to actually see the cards, or was it just go through and pick random?
Oh, I get to pick them. So I asked, and I have his deck list, right? I have it memorized. So I asked the judge, I'm like, how much time do I get? He goes, try to be reasonable. So I just go through and I realize I'm like, all right, he's already got an Emrakul in his hand. So I just hand him 3 more Emrakuls. Or whatever. I lost this game badly, by the way. He beat the crap out of me. But it was just so crazy, and like, seeing his reaction, I was like, look, man, you're fine or whatever. But we ended up losing a close match or whatever in that one. But that was a crazy tournament that stood out for sure too. Yeah, so awesome. Long-winded answer, yeah, I prefer team events.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So do you think Magic the Gathering over the years of like tournament grinding and everything else, do you think that it has taught you a skill or habit that you use in your real life today?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just in practical stuff, I got multiple questions right on my ACT that I would not have gotten if it wasn't for Magic. Like, especially vocabulary, right? Like there are words in Magic that they take some creative licensing, right? There's like a word, they take 2 words and jam them together, and that's not actually a word, right, but you want to use it in a sentence. What's its country of origin kind of thing. Definitely stuff like that. Believe it or not, I've learned a decent bit of social skills from this game. I think a lot of people think Magic players are like the chubby guy in the basement that like doesn't talk to anyone, just plays D&D, like what, all the stereotypes. I'm not saying that.
No, yeah, that's understandable.
And it's just not right. Like, we go out, I miss the social aspect of the game. I miss the gathering, part of it. A good point. At my wedding, almost every person who stood in my wedding, I've met through Magic. Like most of those guys are some of my best friends. Yeah, at least half of them. I think I had like 6 guys, and at least 3 of them standing in my wedding were from Magic. So, I got to meet some of my best friends, learn a lot of social skills, and then like it just gets you better at like analytics, right? Like I was a better poker player because I played Magic. I was a better Magic player because I played poker. I'm better at my job that I have right now because of like Magic, because Magic players are notorious for trying to like min-max everything. You want to be like, you want to do the minimum and get the most out of it, and vice versa, right? And so, at my job, like you start thinking about things 3 steps ahead of time. And I would never have done that if it wasn't for Magic. It's a lot like chess or something like that. It teaches you those analytical skills and preparing for certain things and like thinking ahead and stuff, instead of just being like, oh, well, this happened, guess I'll react, kind of thing.
So shifting gears a little bit, what do you like to do outside of Magic? You talked about poker a little bit and your work and things like that. What do you like to do?
I think my favorite thing in the world right now, probably other than Magic, is my dog. I hang out a lot with my wife and my dog. I have a little, she turns 4 in a couple days, a little Pomeranian. She is the light of my life. My wife and I both wanted dogs growing up and couldn't have any. So a lot of, she's so spoiled, but we want her to be, like there's nothing wrong with that. So we love our dog. But when it comes to more, what you were looking at or looking for, but especially with quarantine, I've been playing a lot of video games, which I haven't done a lot since I was younger. And believe it or not, I was very competitive in that. My very first foray into professional gaming before like Magic, before Hearthstone, before poker, was actually video games. Like I was very good at like Halo and the original Call of Duties and stuff like that. They call FPSs, first person shooters. And then I got a job at one of the companies after that. They wanted me to come work for them. That lasted like 3 weeks. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I had barely touched a console since. Like it took all the fun out of it for me, right? But nowadays I've been playing a lot of like Overwatch, Call of Duty Warzone. This is more on PC. Is when I play the PC stuff. Master Race, as everybody calls it. Stuff like that. I've been dabbling a little bit into like playing some poker in the free time. It's more fun for me now. I play a decent bit of golf when I can, which technically you can still play golf and be socially distant and stuff. Just don't touch anything that's not yours and stay away from your buddy. Because I got a best friend. He's a muggle. He's like a non-Magic playing. We've known each other since like grade school. He's like my best friend in the entire world. I really enjoy fantasy sports. So because a lot of people are gonna find this weird. I love baseball so much. Like it's probably my favorite thing in the world. So like in baseball, they play 162 games in the regular season and then the postseason. Yeah. And I have a favorite team that I follow. I'm a big Atlanta Braves fan. I think last year I probably watched 160 games during the regular season. I just do not miss games. I pay for the program. If I can't watch it live, I'll watch it later that night, which you can get the whole game in like an hour and 20 minutes if you don't have to do commercials, and you can get through the chafe and stuff. And the reason I like it so much, besides liking sports, it's like the best reality TV show. It's like a character arc. Like you watch them start the season, right? And you see them get, it's like football, watch them get better and then like hopefully make the playoffs and compete. I'm a big Saints fan. I'm a local fan for all the other sports and stuff here. There's a big correlation between Magic players and fantasy sports. It's a very similar thing. It's just, don't look at the names, just look at a spreadsheet and get competitive with that kind of stuff. Like I spend way too much money on fantasy sports every year. The video game thing, though, has been the most lately. Like Warzone, Overwatch, I do that a ton. In fact, I was playing right before I got on this with you. I was finishing up a match with some friends. We have multiple Discord channels. We're like pretty big on this. And we have chats and stuff. It's like, hey, I'm free from this block. Who else is free? And depending on how many people are free, it depends on which game we play. Because you can play with more people. And then we all just get in a Discord call and just like, I almost cussed right there. Just like kind of, talk crap with each other and, and rag on each other and play. And almost everyone in there is a Magic player too, but we just don't talk Magic. Right. We talk life or, the video game. And it's funny, Magic players, like I said, notorious, we're trying to be good. Don't get me wrong. We're pretty competitive. We want to win. And we get pretty serious about it. Like we send videos to each other on like, hey, this is how this gets better and stuff. So it's a good thing to have because it gives me that competitive outlet while also being fun and entertaining. and stuff. And then I don't read as much as I used to. I used to read a lot. It's probably why my memory is starting to go and I'm not as smart as I used to be. I probably should get back on that. But I've been really big into TV and movies lately. Okay. I'm like notorious for binge watching television, especially nowadays, because like we're in the golden age of television. These shows are great and their storylines. I'm real big into character development, so I like it a lot.
Since you're talking about like, you know, playing video games, doing things that like are a little bit more relaxing, you know, all those years of grinding, whether it be poker or Magic or anything, like did Magic get to a point where it wasn't your relaxing outlet anymore? Was it more of like, not a stress inducer, but it was so competitive and you were just always grinding and just always working? Did you have to have almost like an outlet away from that? Because so much of Magic is like people use it as a hobby. Does grinding get exhausting at times?
So grinding does get exhausting. It just is exhausting. The actual physical part of it, you know, traveling over the weekend, testing during the week is mind-numbing. It's a job. Like if you want to be, you know, all these people who you see these guys like, you know, Zan Syed or like any like he just immediately comes to mind because that guy never stops working, right? No, you know, when I think of those people, like they deserve everything. I hate using the word deserve because you know we don't deserve anything, but like if someone does, people like him deserve it because they put in the time and effort, you know. And yeah, it does make you tired. It weighs on you. So to answer the earlier part of the question, Magic never really became a problem because maybe the year and a half where I went really hard, it did kind of start to lose its fun. Okay. You know, thankfully I was winning a lot, so that helps, right? Yeah, you know, I had like I was doing really well. So if I had done poorly that year, maybe it makes it worse. You know, it made my home life a little harder because I was away from home more. But, you know, I had an outlet then. That's when I started getting into like Overwatch and stuff and playing, you know, stuff for fun. I was not practicing as much as I should have been. I really wish I had. But the one that did get to me was poker. So like I treated it as a job on and off for like 16 years, right? And I took it really serious. You know, I lived in Vegas for a long time. You know, played a lot here, a lot there. I was traveling all over the country. And like there's something to be said about, you know, the grind of it, especially when the way we keep score in poker is money. You know, it's not like, hey, you have a top 8. It's like, no, I won X dollars. Or like I don't mind saying I remember the first month I moved to Vegas, first month or two, I did really badly. Like I ran really badly. And I think I played badly too. I think I lost like 20 or 30 grand, like just immediately when I was there. And like, here's the thing. Yeah, I could shake that off. It messes with you mentally. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm not winning a hand. You start playing differently, you know, stuff like that. So you have to take a step back. And yeah, it became a job. Like when I was first playing, right, and I was putting in, oh God, the amount of hours I put in would make you sick. You know, like, you know, when I first started playing, it was online, it was super easy. When it becomes a job, it becomes a grind, and you feel that. And so, thankfully, Magic was always kind of the outlet. So Magic never really became that problem. So thank God, right? Because I will say this. I know a lot of people say it. It sounds like people are making a joke. Magic is probably the greatest game ever invented. It's like its complexity down to its simplicity. Yeah, exactly. Like it's one of the hardest games in the world, if not the hardest game in the world. There's a big article about that. Everyone approaches it differently. Like, you know, I mentioned this. Like, I've talked to Tom about, you know, Magic like in depth, and it's like he's speaking a different language. Yeah. Like, I just do not get it. We do not see it the same way, and that's fine. Like we've each been successful in our own ways. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. So, thankfully, Magic never became that much of a chore to me, and I made sure. I try to be very self-aware when it comes to that stuff. Like if I find myself not having fun with it or, you know, not reacting the way that I should, I don't have a healthy relationship with it, I will take a step back. I think that's really important for people at home too, is be very honest with yourself. It's the best thing you can ever do if you like aspire to be a grinder, aspire to do something like this professionally, is just be as honest with yourself as possible and make a routine. Make a routine. Yeah.
So since you began grinding, you've been really advocating to give back to the Magic the Gathering community. I know you've had some side projects along the way. Did you want to talk about any of those side projects?
Yeah, absolutely. I make a podcast every week with Ross Merriam. I think I may have mentioned it earlier. It's kind of hard not to. He's my partner in crime. It's the Pioneer podcast. We mostly focus just on Pioneer right now. We made it like the day the new format got announced. I think there's a very good chance this happens, but we believe that it's going to eventually become the most popular format in Magic. You know, kind of what Modern was over the last few years, because it just makes sense, right? Like if Modern's going to go the way of Legacy and be like, you know, the eternal format, then the one in the middle where people get to kind of like keep their cards the most or whatever, it just makes sense that that's going to be the most popular event. So we do a lot of work with that. We record every like Monday, Tuesday, so it usually comes out like Wednesday, Thursday, you know, whenever we can. We're also very busy. I'm very busy, so we try to make that as good as possible. It's a little easier nowadays, you know, with, you know, us not having to be in the office and stuff. I think we're going to start expanding a little bit on it soon. We'll see, because like, you know, it's kind of slowing down a little bit. The new set came out, so that's nice, but like we do mention other formats. We're very well known for, we call it the Ross rant or the Tannon tangent. You know, there's been episodes, they're generally about an hour and a half, 2 hours long, where we don't talk about Magic for 30 minutes. You know, we'll just talk about other stuff that's going on, and honestly I like it, and a lot of people say they like it too, because I'm not just there to read a spreadsheet to you. I'm not just there to read a PowerPoint to you. Like, we want to be your friends. We want you to feel like the vibe that I'm going for, especially like it's the same vibe I went for when I was doing casting for Hearthstone and Magic, is I want you to feel like we're all in my living room, sitting on my couch, and we're watching the show together. You know what I mean? Awesome. Or we're just talking, you know, just talking. And I want y'all to feel that. I want you to get that kind of thing from me. And so been doing a lot of work on that. I've got something else in the works. I haven't signed anything yet, but I've told them that I'm in if they want to do it with, are you familiar with the NRG circuit?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, they are going to do some more, you know, everything has to change, right? Like everything's having to evolve right now, right? A lot of stuff's moving online. NRG has some stuff that's in the works. I don't think they have a problem, you know, mentioning this. I'm not going to give away exactly what it is, but it's going to be like a weeknight kind of thing. And I'm very excited to try it out. It's kind of a cool new novel idea on how to approach some stuff. And I've told them that I'm interested and that I will do it if everything works out. Then look for it. Even if I'm not involved, please look for it. They put on a hell of a show. They've got really good production and really good players. So even if I don't participate that way, I might participate in playing. We'll see. I haven't really jumped into any of the online stuff lately, but I've got the itch. Like, I really want to. Yeah. It's when I'm at home, it's hard for me to commit like 8 hours of my day to play a tournament online. It's a lot different when you fly somewhere and you're like playing physical Magic than, okay, like I can leave my room and go do something, but now I have to go back to my office to like, you know, play more Magic. So I've got that stuff in the works, and then we got some more side stuff for exactly the Pioneer cast, because we're trying to give back as much as we can. Like, I'm sure you've heard of a lot of these people, like they're putting on their own tournaments, you know, like Lotus Box has been doing a lot of stuff in RG. We've talked about it. It's a matter if we want to put the effort forward for it, you know, because
a lot of work on the back end of that. So,
and everyone else is doing such a good job. You know, like I helped, you know, Todd Anderson put on a show. He was hoping to raise $1,000 for charity, and I think we raised like 15,000 or something, some absurd number, like some just absurd number. And I got to help out with that. You know, I had to do commentary and, you know, put some more eyeballs on it and stuff. And so just anything with that we can do right now, because everyone should do their part, right? And like, it doesn't cost me anything. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's maybe a couple more extra hours of work, but like, I like talking, you know, I'm good at this stuff anyway. I'm going to be doing stuff anyway. It's not a problem. And I'm pretty unaffected overall. Like, I'm making less money at work, but I can still work, right? My wife's still making, you know, her salary, and she makes good money, right? We're both still healthy. Like, we own our home. Like, I'm in a good spot. Yeah. Right. And there's a lot of people that aren't getting that income right now. They don't have stuff to do, or honestly, they're just bored. Like, that's the hardest thing right now, is that if you're following the rules, like doing what you're supposed to be doing, and please follow the damn rules. Stay home. I'm gonna keep saying this.
It's all good.
I'm a big advocate for health and stuff like that.
Stay at home, wash your hands.
Yeah, just wash your damn hands. I am astounded when I go into public. Like, I went to the grocery store the other day at how few people are just, look, the 6 foot thing, I get it. Some people are like, yeah, it's if you're gonna get it that way, you're just gonna get it. Like, I get that. Wear a mask. Don't infect other people. Like, just leave other people alone. And the other people that just come up close to me and start, I'm like, leave me alone, man. Like, what are you doing? You know, the people just act like it's any other day, right? Like, listen to scientists, you know what I mean? Listen to people who are smart about this stuff, please. But what was the question? Where were they going with this?
I asked you about your side projects. You started talking about the NRG series, and
anything else I can do with like the COVID relief. I'm a big thing of that, because like I said, you know, I'm stuck in the house. You know, I've never looked forward to walking my dog so much. You know, just walking her around the neighborhood, getting some sun, because the weather here is really nice right now. I know, depending on where you are, or anyone listening to this is in the country, it's like 80 to 90 degrees outside with a breeze. It is nice. You know, I'm like walking through my yard barefoot and stuff. And so I'm getting outside. I was getting pretty good about exercising.
Okay.
Like, during this and exercising more because I have more free time, but I hurt myself. Like I actually injured myself. Like I have a muscle problem. And so I can't right now and it sucks, but I'll be fine in like a week or two. It's nothing too serious. It was actually less serious than we thought at first. So I'm happy with that. But anything I can get my hands in with that for COVID, I've even been streaming a tiny bit again. Not a ton, but a little bit. That's just at Tannon Grace on Twitch. I'm the Tannon Grace everywhere else, but it's just Tannon Grace on Twitch. Just any way that I can help, right? Like the charity stuff, entertainment, because I haven't watched streams so much as I am right now, right? Like I miss having an SCG to watch over the weekend if I'm not home. I miss hearing Patrick and Cedric like just hamming it up, and stuff. So watching a lot more streams, watching a lot more TV, just helping people, have that outlet and not go stir crazy because it's so hard to not have that happen right now.
So if someone was to get into Magic right now, what advice would you give them? Obviously, this time it's a little bit different of the year, but like it just, let's say all this was like the pandemic was not going on. What advice would you give someone getting into Magic?
I think this is actually a pretty good time to get into it, right? Like you can't do the physical part of it, but like arenas and like for all its shortcomings in arena and MTGO and like, on my podcast or in public, I've given WotC a hard time on certain decisions because I don't agree with everything they do, right? I'm not going to pull my punches when it comes to certain things. Overall, Arena is an amazing program. It is really good. They knocked it out of the park. It's way better than I thought it was going to be. It's probably way better than they thought it was going to be. You can tell with the decisions they had to make and how quickly they had to make those decisions that, it exceeded all expectations. But, so just for people, don't try to do too much too fast. I know that this coming from the guy who won his first PTQ and just top 8 at a Grand Prix after coming out of retirement. Yeah. Like I get it, but just don't do too much too fast, right? Like try to have fun with it at all times. Try to learn every time you're playing. If you're trying to get competitive, be around people that are better than you or people that are going to challenge you. Like when I played poker, I had a guy, a former Magic player himself. He won a Grand Prix, a guy named Timothy Landell, who I am indebted to forever because he just gave me free poker coaching and he's very good. But the main thing he did was he held me accountable. Like every time I would talk to him about a hand that I played, he'd be like, well, why'd you do that? And he made me answer for it. I couldn't just make random decisions. I had to have a reason, right? So that kind of stuff. And then one of my favorite things to mention and talk about this is a lot of people see themselves from outside themselves. Does that make sense? Like you see yourself through other people's eyes.
Right.
That's not important. That is not what matters the most in the world. You do not need to impress other people. So your results don't matter in that realm. Impress yourself. That's what matters. Like set a goal for yourself, right? It doesn't have to be a specific goal. Like I want to finish here by this time. Like I just want to feel like I'm getting better by this time, right? Or I want to make sure that I'm having fun, that kind of stuff. Impress yourself first and then don't impress everybody else around you. Stop trying to appease other people. Make yourself happy.
So you started grinding pretty early. You said you got your first PTQ, you went right to the Pro Tour. Taking that first Pro Tour, you've been playing quite a long time. How do you feel about the pro play and how PTQs and PTs and things like that have just changed and developed over time?
That's a really good question. I'm going to try to answer this as much as I can without going, because I could talk about this for probably like hours. I think they've done a really good job and a really bad job at the same time. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think it's true. So you're never going to appease everyone, right? You're never going to have everyone happy. I thought the MPL was a mistake when it comes to pro play. And I don't mean a mistake as in like they messed up. I just think it didn't hit the mark that they wanted to do. I think the biggest part of that was engagement, right? Like people weren't engaged with the MPL. People just didn't care, right? And they didn't have a reason to. And I think one of the main failings of it, or the two main failings of A, was marketing. Like there would be an event going on a Saturday and you wouldn't even know, right? Like their numbers were horrible. Like there's no way to sugarcoat that. Their numbers were very bad for the stuff for watching stuff on Twitch. And the other failing is like the reason for these failings is so like earlier in the interview when we were talking about, I'd watch it on ESPN or I'd watch it on Twitch. I'm like, I can do that. I want to go do that. You can't do this with the MPL. They try to sell it to you. Yeah, you can be on the MPL, but you can't. You remember the old thing, play the game, see the world?
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever remember Magic when it said that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like my first Pro Tour was in London. I had never been to Europe before, but I got to go to Europe for a week. It was awesome.
Yeah,
you know,
it was awesome.
Like you don't get to do that now. You know, that kind of stuff. Like if I wanted to qualify for the MPL, do you know how long and hard it would be for me to do that? It'd be impossible. Like I would have to run like God, play unbelievably, and still get lucky on top of that. You know, because you have these people that are like shoehorned in, and like, yeah, they deserved it. They were the best players in the world. Nothing against that. Like, this is nothing about the players, right? But it just took away that competitiveness, right? Like you still have the SCG tour, thank God.
Yeah,
like, that's something people can aspire to. They can still build their brand. You know, if it wasn't for the SCG tour, I wouldn't have a brand in Magic, right? Like no one would know who the Tannon Grace is, or you know, and stuff like that. And there's nothing for people to like grasp at now. And like, yeah, they're changing it up. And here's the thing: you can't tell me you find this successful when you have to change OP every year. When you have to change organized play every single year, that is admitting failure. All right. And for a while, we didn't really have to do that. Yeah, the system was flawed in a lot of ways, but like at least we had this tangible system that we could follow. Nowadays, if you're like, hey, how do you qualify for it? I'd be like, dude, I don't even know. You could show me the article. I could read it. I probably need to read it 3 times. You know, maybe that's me getting older and dumber, but it's just harder to follow. Other than that, production, amazing.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a wrestling event when they come out. I'm surprised they're not letting these players like steer into it more. Like when Cedric Phillips got to be in one of them, I thought he was just going to go off the rail, right? You know, because he's such a big wrestling fan. I thought he was going to come out like Hollywood Hogan, like, you know, playing the air guitar, being, you know, ridiculous, right? Me, I would have some fun with it, like Canister. You know, like Canister has so much fun with it as a personality. And they have this like ability to build these people and build their personalities and be successful in that way, and they're not. And like maybe that's not what they want. But you see that with the SCG Tour, they're doing a great job of it without putting that much effort into it. You know what I mean? It's not like they don't need to reinvent the wheel. WotC doesn't, you know? And I mean, I could just keep going with this, but I think overall all of it's a plus besides that. You know, there's more stuff to play in than ever before, but there's less reason to play in the stuff. That's the biggest problem I have. You know what I mean? Like we had tangible goals and things that you had to accomplish back in the day. Now it's harder to do. And it didn't help that this COVID thing happened this year and kind of like derailed their whole system because, you know, they were rolled out a new one. It looked like it was going to be cool and help some people out. But now, I mean, I don't think we're playing for another 8 months, you know, probably. So we'll have to see. So the Pro Tour dream, I mean, the first Pro Tour back is going to be obscenely packed because all these people are still qualifying and there's no event to play. So we'll have to see, or Players Tour, or whatever they're called. I'm just gonna. It's the Pro Tour. It's the Pro Tour. Yeah. It's
the PT.
I've called it the PT for 15, 20 years. You know. So yeah, overall, like I think they've done a really good job. Like I can nitpick, you know. And here's the thing: we're never gonna be super happy with everything. You're never gonna please everyone. But I think they've done a good job overall, and they've at least been able to mostly admit when they're wrong and make changes to better it.
Right.
I would love to see them maybe hire from without or listen to certain people a little bit more, but they're at least more willing to than they were in the past, and I think that's a big step forward. I think they're doing a good job there. It's also pretty obvious with the way cards have been in the last year, what they're trying to do and where they're steering, and a lot of people aren't going to like it, but that's the new norm. So we have to accept it, and that's the other thing is like people fear change and don't like change, and so like we're kind of naysaying a lot of stuff, but honestly, I think they've done a good job overall. There's just a lot of things I would do differently, but that's not my job. So
I think they're heading in a good direction. I just think they're phasing almost things out too quickly. It's like ripping off like a Band-Aid and then just like putting a little bit of silly glue or something over it to try and fix it. It's just like the wound's there, you can see it. It's just how do we fix this? And I think eventually, like, you know, the wound heals, we kind of head towards the right direction. I know you were playing video games before this, so I don't know if you saw the news. Did you see that they're getting rid of Planeswalker points?
Yeah, I just saw it today. Okay. You know, people were posting a lot of stuff on. I'm a Twitter fiend. I love Twitter. I take a lot of people scroll through Facebook and stuff. I'm like that. I constantly scroll through Twitter. It's like the perfect amount for me. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it seems like it doesn't hurt you to still have the stuff around. Like, why are you phasing it out? You know, like they didn't give us that in the statement. Like, why are you doing this? It just seems like a net negative, right? Yeah. Like, I can't go look at my, history or whatever. Like, why are you taking away the history of the game? Like, you've already done that so much. Are you just trying to kill the history of the game? And honestly, I think the answer is yes. I think they're drastically changing.
I think in their actual article, they said something about Magic's heading in the next era. And just kind of like the way they worded that is just like, change is coming, and it just feels like they're slowly moving away from the history.
100% agree with you. It's really funny. I feel like a huge hypocrite every time I talk about this kind of thing, because I remember a few years ago, especially when I was doing a lot of the Hearthstone stuff and I wasn't doing a lot of Magic stuff, and someone asked me once, they were like, do you think Magic can be an esport and be as successful? Because I remember I was at BlizzCon and like the World Championships was going on, and like there was this huge, like you've seen a Blizzard production before. They're like way over the top. It's great, right? It's an actual convention, right? It's what Magic Fests are supposed to be, and like they're doing a good job of it. I actually went to a Magic Fest and I was like, dude, this is great.
Yeah.
I could have not played this event and still had a ton of fun. So someone asked me, they were like, can Magic do this? And I was like, in the current state, no. I was like, they're like, how do we do this? I was like, you can't have this. And I remember one of the things I said was, you'd have to strip the game down from where it is now and rebuild it. You'd have to Thanos the damn thing, like rip it from atom and start it over, because just the snap. Because it was made in the early 90s when digital was such a far thing in the future that it's like kind of thing. And the game is perfect, right? Like it's the most populated, greatest game ever. It's not made for digital, and you're seeing the game change that way, right? Like just look at the wording on cards nowadays. Like just look at Ikoria, the newest set. Like there's stuff on there you could have never done in the 90s or early 2000s, right? And that's fine. People have to accept it. That's the way it's going. So I feel bad when I naysay them for this, when I was like, because I remember the biggest thing I said was, you're going to get a lot of backlash. You're going to get a lot of people fighting against you. You're going to get people who are going to quit. But for the for the future of the game, if you want it to survive for for the rest of your life, you have to do this. And now we're seeing it, and people are not reacting well, but that's to be expected. Some of my best memories of Magic is like watching these old things, and like now they don't matter. They've erased that history. And the other problem is like, WotC's not very, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're not very clear about all this. They're not very translucent when they're telling you something. They're like, hey, we're taking this away for reasons. And they never tell you the reasons. And I get it. They don't want to tell us everything. They don't have to say these things. But like, if they gave us a little bit more, which maybe they're not ready yet, then don't announce the other stuff. Like, stop taking and then later like sprinkling one a little bit, or like, here's the thing, and then like we don't make the correlation. Like that's why this thing changed. You know what I mean? Like just give us a little more.
The announcement of the announcement to the announcement, each time giving us a little bit more sprinkled, and then it's just like eventually
just ripping. Ripping the rest out.
Yep. So it's definitely gonna be difficult. It's gonna be interesting to see Magic move, especially like as we move more to this. I think paper Magic's always gonna be the preferred way to play, but I feel
mine.
I feel like as we move into this digital age, it's gonna be more accessible. MTG Arena essentially is pretty much free for everything. You have your people that'll pre-order things or buy packs and stuff like that. But I'm definitely excited to see accessibility come to more people. It's just a matter of seeing kind of the direction they head. So as a younger player, and especially I started in Gatecrash, so my existence has been pretty much everything legal and Pioneer. It's definitely like I have a different view than like all the way back like you do, and it's just one of those things that's we're sad to see a new era or see an era fade out essentially. But we're excited to see the new era come in. So
100% agree with you. Like, I think the future of Magic is bright, right? And you had to do something to capture kids today. Yeah. And I'm not trying to be that old, like, get off my lawn guy. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not 40 yet, like, I don't, I'm not like that. But, why would a kid want to play tabletop Magic when they have, like, their Switch, their phone, their computer, and their Xbox and PlayStation, whatever the newest versions of those are.
Right.
And, it's about to be PlayStation 5 or whatever, or 37, I don't know. But why would they? And like now you have this big flashy thing where when you play your dinosaur, it pops up out of the screen and yells at you and stuff. And like, I actually think it's kind of cool.
I do too. I agree. I like that.
So we're like, that's not for me. My cards didn't move back in the, back in my day. And it's like, look, man, it's not being crotchety and old. Like, like embrace the new, because like, this is what it is. This is what it's going to be. I think they're doing a good job overall.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm just waiting for the day we get those, big arena stadiums like in Yu-Gi-Oh! And we can play the paper cards and get the animations still and just, yep. Well, once that's there, Magic's going to be perfect.
What's the thing they wore on their arm with like the cards
like a
in it?
dual disc or something.
Yeah, I want one of those for Magic.
Yeah, and then holograms. Oh, my.
I didn't watch those shows, but I've seen enough of like the stuff through pop culture, obviously.
All right, so I think that's all the questions I had for you. We did have a couple questions from Twitter.
Hit me.
What is your favorite deck to play, and why is it Tron?
Okay, so I am known as the Tron guy. It's kind of funny that, like, if you go through my top 8 history, like, I have 2 top 8s of Tron. I have 8 with Delver, right? Yeah. But I liked Tron because it was very well positioned at the time. The deck is very powerful, very linear, which is what you want to do in Modern, right? It seems like an easy deck. I think it's harder than people give it credit for, but it is easier than the average deck. But you're rewarded for making really tough decisions in the games, like early, where you're trying to cantrip to the maximum amount and mulliganing correctly with your opening hand, especially before, like, you know, the London mulligan rule changed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I mulliganed a 4 and won a game very easily. Yep. So yeah, I just liked playing a powerful proactive deck.
What is your favorite travel food?
So if it's a certain kind of cuisine, the simple answer is Asian.
Okay.
I love Asian food more than anything, though I have a soft spot for pasta. But overall, honestly, fusion food. I've been real big into fusion. Have you been to a fusion restaurant yourself?
I have not, no.
So they take, like, you know, they'd be like Asian Italian fusion, like just or whatever, you know, and they like start to combine, you know, certain dishes, and like you get kind of different. I really like when they take like Southern American or Central American foods and combine it with like an Asian flair or like an Italian flair a lot. Like, I went to one place and had pasta with shrimp and grits or something like that, and I was like, this was amazing.
Cool. Yeah,
like, this is just amazing, you know, like, because I like shrimp and grits. I'm a Southern boy, you know. And right before the outbreak, I was almost vegetarian. I was going like more pescatarian, but I was like really, really, really cutting back on my meat consumption for many reasons, many reasons. So fusion restaurants and Asian restaurants and like any kind of like Mexican, whatever you want to call it, those are better for me than the average like American place, where they're just like, here's a hunk of meat and like a little bit of rice or something. And I'm like, you know, and I traveled a lot with Ross, who is vegetarian. So we would do a lot of research before we would go to eat at all the travel places and stuff. And then if it is a meat thing, I love me some Korean barbecue.
If you could be any Magic the Gathering character, who would you be?
Jace Bellerin, not close.
And why?
He's just so cool, right? Like, you know, he's smarter. I don't read the books, but he looks like he's like smarter than everybody else. That's the kind of Magic that I like. You know, I'm a blue mage, right? I'm a tempo player, and you get that kind of that vibe from him. You know, he's like trying to outwit his opponents. That or Nicol Bolas, like absolute power, absolute corruption, like just being evil. But if it was just pure, like the coolest character that I've liked the most, my favorite card of all time is Dakin Blackblade. Like, it's my favorite art. It's my favorite art. And that guy just looks so badass. I want to be that guy, you know. Like, so
I can picture you honestly, like the Ixalan Jace, just like on the side of like a pirate ship, just like hanging off.
Was that Sexy Jace? Is that the one they talked about? Where he like has the shirt.
Yeah, he's just wearing like a cutoff or something. Just like
he's wearing it looks like a, what is it, a bustier or whatever they're called. He looks like one of those things. Yeah, it's one of the pirate Jace. Yeah.
Do you have any superstitions / like rituals you do before like you go to a Magic tournament or like a poker tournament? Like, do you have like a lucky sock or like a hat you always wear, or like something that you do before each tournament to try and help you like get in the mind space, so to speak, of winning?
That's a really good question, and it's a really funny one for me because as most poker players will, you know, tell you, like, and you know, I love baseball, which is super superstitious. Blech. And then no, right? And then poker, you're the actual like the opposite. You should be the opposite, right? Because like you create your own luck. Right. I'm a firm believer in creating your own luck. Put yourself in a position to succeed, and you'll succeed more often than not. Right? Like, and so I don't really have too many superstitions, but I think the second part of your question is very important. I try to get myself in the same headspace, right? So whenever I'm playing like online, I want the situation that I'm playing in to always be similar, right? If I'm always playing with music, I'll always have music on, or I'm always looking on the same monitor. Like, I'm always kind of in the same headspace because you don't want to worry about anything else, right? Like, you just want it to be comfortable. When it was like at events, when I started grinding a little harder at the SEG, one of the biggest things that I was like, I always was big about, and that I kind of was like, I would put my foot down a lot about, and it's really funny, sleep. Yeah, just made sure I got a good night's sleep, because like, it's hard to play with a little bit of rest. You know, when I was younger and playing a lot and I was playing poker, I'd be awake till like 5 a.m. and then go to a tournament at 9 a.m. I'd get like 2 or 3 hours and I'd be fine. Nowadays, when I have a job, and like, you know, when I was doing the SEG grinding, I'd get up at like 6 or 7 every morning. So getting up for these tournaments at like 9 and 10, that was easy. So it was like my normal day, and I saw my results get a lot better.
Yeah.
And then, hey, listen to same music and stuff before, just something get you pumped, get in the right headspace,
Get in your headspace, yeah. I guess one last question to kind of ask. Like,
sure.
How do you deal with losses? Because I think that's something like a lot of Magic players like go through, and they have to find their own little ways. But just if how do you like handle your losses, and especially like you've talked about earlier in this episode, like getting the second place and then just losing that last match. I'm sure you've had a lot of times where you've had to kind of talk yourself out of those headspace, and just how do you handle that? Because I think it's so important to like learn to almost love losing and how you can deal with it personally.
I think that's one of the best questions you can ask when it comes to Magic and being competitive and playing the game a lot. Losing is lonely. I think that's the best way to put it. It's all on you, right? Like, team events is slightly different. I played golf really competitively in high school.
Okay.
And that's another sport like that. It's all on you. Like, if you lose, it's probably your fault. And if you win, you probably did something good, right? And so it's pretty important to learn from your losses. I think that's one of the best ways to take it, and it like makes you better at the game and makes you handle losing well. Like, I was always good about this, but I was always amazed that like anytime Ross lost, he could tell you where he lost the game specifically and why. And I don't mean like, oh, I got unlucky because they did this here. Like, no, he'd be like, I could have done this, or this, right? Like, there's always an opportunity to be learning. And I think that will make you accept losing better, is if you're always trying to learn from it. It's part of the game. I mean, even the upper echelon of players only have like, a little over 60 to 70 win percentage of all their matches. And that's absurd. Yeah. If you're winning almost 70% of your matches, that is unreal. Right. Winning that much. It's part of the game. You need to learn to accept it. If you're the kind of person that gets hot and heated, like, I guess, like, learn to kind of cool down quicker. Because I've got some friends, right? I had one friend that was like, he would get very hot and heated after losses and always feel like he's unlucky. I had a conversation with him, like, look, you can think that, you can take it however you want, but like, you've got to get yourself back into the right mind frame as quickly as possible after this. Because this game is very unforgiving, and it doesn't wait for anyone, right? So just get over yourself, get over all that, and just take it a little better. And I don't mean you need to drastically change overnight. Just start working on little bits, right?
Right.
Because a lot of the people who, when they're losing and they're constantly like, well, I keep getting unlucky. Like, I get it, man. You didn't draw well one game. That happens. You get mana screwed, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. Mulligan more. Play better, play tighter. Like there's always some little thing, almost always, that you could be doing better, and you're just not willing to understand that. And that's why you're not accepting your losses as well as possible. Also, it made it easier myself because I was playing so much. It's the same thing in poker. Like, if you put in enough volume, and by volume I mean like just playing enough, like, you're gonna win more than you lose. So like, it makes the losses easier. And I'm not advocating, hey, to take your losses better by just playing infinitely. That is something that does help. Is just, kind of try to remember the wins as much as you remember the losses too. Because like, selective memory is a thing. And people are just going to always remember with amazing clarity their bad beats, but probably can't tell you the 15 times they got lucky in the last week, So
focus on your wins, kind of put the bad to the side, and then just kind of like breathe through and kind of just as long as you're learning something. And that's a big thing I try to advocate on my channel. Even with like you said, Magic is a game that you're gonna lose. You're gonna get unlucky sometimes. That's variance. That's part of the game, and part of what makes the game good for so many people is there's a variance of some sort. But there's always little steps you can take towards improving and changing your behavior, and just making little tweaks here or there that can help improve your game. But one of the biggest things I advocate on my channel is learning to recognize something in that game, even with every loss. Because as long as you're learning, you're not walking away from the table with nothing. You've learned something, and it's just one of those things that's just so important. You just got to accept losing as it is, and just kind of recognize, evaluate your stuff, and see if you can learn something from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
All right, Tannon, I think that's all I have for you today. If people want to find you on social media, where can they find you? Or if you want to promote the Pioneer podcast or anything like that, go ahead.
No, absolutely. If you want to find me on Twitter, that's like the main social media thing that I use, and I interact quite a bit on there. It's the Tannon Grace. If you just put Tannon Grace in there, I'm the only one. It's gonna find me. It makes the part funny. On Twitch, I'm just Tannon Grace. I stream Magic a decent bit, but I also stream some of the other games like Overwatch and Warzone, and I've done some poker stuff on there before. Generally, my streams are mostly like entertainment education type stuff. I'm not generally streaming like tournaments and stuff as much as most people, so that's probably why I don't have as big a following, but I'm pretty interactive with my chat, and apparently I have good taste in music. A lot of people really make comments about my music all the time. The Pioneer podcast, please check it out if you haven't. Ross and I put a lot of work into that every week. It's the Pioneer podcast. You can find it on Twitter. It has its own Twitter. You can Google it. It's on every major podcast site. We also have a Patreon if you want to, support us, but we have a Discord that's super active as well. We must have 700 people in our Discord, and awesome. Just tons. It's really cool right now. I check it a lot right now because we had some stuff going on, and we have channels for everything, every format in Magic, not just Pioneer, literally every format. Ross and I are pretty active in there. Plus, there's a lot of people with good opinions. And then we have really cool channels. We have like a food channel, like a pet channel. People are posting on their pet. Like I go through that every day. And, people put food in there, and like right now, especially people are like, oh, what's the recipe? Like, how do I make that? Because we're cooking at home a lot more and stuff right now. So a lot of cool things going on in there, and feel free to message me. You DM'd me on Twitter. If I respond to those as much as I possibly can. If I'm streaming, feel free to come in there and ask questions. I'm a pretty open guy.
The viewers at home, if you stuck around to the very end, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please give this video a huge thumbs up. Tannon, thank you so much for being here. Make sure, viewers at home, you subscribe to the channel. And once again, I can't thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really hope to have more people on and get more interviews going on the channel. So if you like that type of content, make sure you follow along at home. And thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day. Again, Tannon, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed today's video. Check out the description below for more Magic the Gathering content. This was Jordan from Crocodile MTG, and we will see you next time.